The Arizona Territory in the spring of 1884 was a harsh land where survival depended on courage, determination, and a little luck. Endless deserts stretched toward distant mountains, while lonely ranches stood miles apart, connected only by dusty wagon trails. Rancher Jacob Carter had spent years building a small cattle ranch with his own hands after losing his parents to illness. Though hard-working and respected for his honesty, he struggled to make ends meet after a long drought destroyed much of his herd. Every dollar mattered, yet Jacob refused to become bitter. He believed a person's character was measured by kindness, even when life offered very little in return. One warm morning, word spread that the territorial government would hold a public auction outside the county office. Several Apache prisoners who had been separated from their families after recent conflicts were being assigned to settlers as laborers under government supervision. Curious townspeople gathered to watch while wealthy ranch owners examined the frightened prisoners as though they were tools instead of human beings. Jacob disliked everything about the event, but he hoped someone with compassion might offer a better future to those standing silently beneath the blazing Arizona sun. Instead, he witnessed laughter, insults, and cruel jokes echoing through the crowd. Among the prisoners stood a young Apache woman named Naya. Unlike the others, she never begged for sympathy or lowered her eyes in defeat. Her traditional buckskin dress was worn from months of hardship, and her long black hair was tied with a faded leather strip. Dust covered her moccasins, but quiet dignity remained written across her face. Some ranchers mocked her, claiming she looked too weak for ranch work, while others laughed that no one would waste money on someone who seemed so silent and reserved. Their words carried no mercy, yet Naya remained calm, refusing to let them see her pain. Jacob watched from the edge of the crowd, feeling ashamed of what unfolded before him. He reached into his pocket and counted the few coins he still owned after purchasing supplies for his ranch. $3 remained, barely enough to buy food for the coming week. Common sense told him to walk away, but his conscience refused. When the official called for offers on Naya, silence filled the gathering because nobody wanted her. Jacob stepped forward, placed his $3 on the table, and quietly said he would take responsibility for her. The crowd erupted with laughter, convinced he had made the worst bargain in Arizona. Ignoring every mocking voice behind him, Jacob thanked the official, untied the rope that bound Naya's wrists, and invited her to follow him home. During the long wagon ride across the desert, neither of them spoke very much. Jacob offered her water, fresh bread, and a blanket to protect her from the afternoon sun. Naya accepted each gesture with quiet gratitude, surprised that someone treated her with simple human respect instead of suspicion. As distant mountains glowed beneath the setting sun, Jacob explained that she would never be forced to earn her place through fear. If she stayed at his ranch, she would be treated fairly and with dignity. Life on Jacob's ranch slowly settled into a peaceful routine. Each morning he repaired fences, cared for his remaining cattle, and struggled to restore land damaged by drought. Without being asked, Naya helped gather firewood, fetched water from the creek, and organized the small cabin with remarkable care. Although she spoke little English, she observed everything around her with sharp attention. Jacob noticed she often paused to study the landscape, especially the rocky hills surrounding the valley. It seemed as though she recognized details invisible to everyone else, but she never explained what she was searching for, leaving Jacob quietly curious. Several days later, while collecting herbs near a narrow canyon, Naya suddenly froze before a group of ancient rocks. Carved into the stone were small symbols that looked meaningless to outsiders, but carried a terrifying message to the Apache people. Her expression changed instantly from calm to alarm. She hurried back toward the ranch, her heartbeat racing faster with every step across the dusty trail. Those markings were not random decorations. They were an old warning, left only when ruthless outlaws planned to move through the region. Jacob had no idea that the woman everyone had rejected was carrying a secret capable of saving every family across the entire frontier. As soon as Naya returned to the ranch, she carefully explained the meaning of the symbols carved into the rocks. Speaking slowly in the English she had learned from missionaries years earlier, she revealed that her late father had been one of the most respected Apache scouts in the entire territory. From childhood, he had taught her how to read messages hidden in nature, recognize warning signs left by different tribes, and identify the secret trails crossing the mountains. The markings she had discovered could only mean one thing. A ruthless outlaw gang was preparing to raid every ranch and settlement in the valley. Jacob listened without interruption. Although many people would have dismissed her story, he had learned enough about Naya's honesty to trust every word she spoke. Without wasting another minute, Jacob rode into town and warned the sheriff and neighboring ranchers. Most of the wealthy landowners who had mocked Naya at the auction laughed once again. They claimed a quiet Apache woman could never know more than experienced lawmen. Some even accused Jacob of being manipulated. Only the elderly sheriff paid close attention after hearing Naya describe the exact routes the outlaws would likely use. Her knowledge was too detailed to ignore. Finally, the sheriff agreed to prepare the town for the worst, while Jacob and a handful of brave volunteers followed Naya into the mountains to confirm her warning before it was too late. Moving through the rocky wilderness with remarkable confidence, Naya guided the group along narrow canyons hidden behind towering cliffs. She pointed out broken branches, fresh horse tracks, abandoned campfires, and small signs that nobody else noticed. Every discovery confirmed her fears. Before sunset, they reached a high ridge overlooking a hidden valley where dozens of armed outlaws had gathered with stolen horses and wagons. The gang was preparing to attack several settlements before dawn, believing the isolated ranches would be completely defenseless. Jacob quickly realized that without Naya's knowledge, the entire frontier would have walked directly into a deadly trap. They quietly returned under the cover of darkness to organize the town's defense. Throughout the night, ranchers, deputies, and volunteers worked side by side. Families were safely moved into protected buildings, livestock was hidden in secure canyons, and strong barricades were built across the main roads. Naya suggested using an old Apache mountain pass as a secret escape route for women and children if the fighting became overwhelming. Before sunrise, everyone was in position. When the outlaw gang finally charged toward the valley expecting frightened victims, they were met by prepared defenders instead. A fierce battle echoed across the desert as gunfire rang between the cliffs. Surprised by the carefully planned defenses, the criminals quickly lost their advantage, and several attempted to flee through routes that Naya had already predicted and blocked. By midday, the battle was over. The sheriff and his deputies captured the gang's leader along with the remaining outlaws before they could escape the territory. Not a single family in the valley was lost, and the settlement survived because they had been warned in time. News of Naya's courage spread across Arizona faster than any stagecoach. The same people who had mocked Jacob for spending $3 on a woman they considered worthless now stood before her with lowered heads, ashamed of their cruelty. During a gathering in the town square, the sheriff publicly thanked Naya for saving countless lives and presented her with a Medal of Honor. Looking at the cheering crowd, Jacob realized the greatest choice he had ever made was not spending his last $3, it was believing in the worth of a person everyone else had refused to see. Together, Jacob and Naya built a future founded on trust, respect, and hope, proving that true courage can change not only one life, but the destiny of an entire frontier.